I met an older gentleman the other day. He said, Wayne, what do you think that property's worth? When I told him the value of his land, he was shocked to know that he's now a multimillionaire. And all he did was just purchase the land over the years. I asked him, I said, did you have a goal to become this wealthy person by just buying land? He said, no, sir. I just like buying land because they ain't making any more of it. So he purchased land which was once way out in the country. Well, that's been 35 years. And since then, everything, as you know, just looking around your hometown, things move out. Population grows, and that land is now worth millions of dollars. Maybe you have a story very similar to that. If so, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. That's just a prime example of how you can purchase land, whether it be foreclosed land, whether it be purchasing land by owner, land contracts, buying it directly from the bank, or just someone looking to sell property, and just sit on the land and it make you a multimillionaire. Now, a question you may be asking is, Wayne, was that waterfront property? What made that land so valuable? Even though I'm walking around sailboats right here on the lake, it wasn't waterfront property. It was just countryside property, but it had good road frontage, and it was in a decent location, and it wasn't in a heavily flooded marshland area. It was just good, valuable land that somebody can develop, somebody can build on, somebody can purchase and make their own homestead, if you will. And he just held onto the land and became really wealthy. I've heard stories like this for literally decades now. My name's Wayne Turner. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I've bought, flipped, sold, done thousands of real estate transactions and helped thousands of people buy and sell real estate. I share that with you so the information that I share with you are true stories and factual information. I didn't get any of this stuff from AI, and I certainly didn't read it in a book. So some good questions to ask is, Wayne, how can I get in on that? How can I buy land? What's the cheapest way to buy land? What's the fastest way to buy land? That's what I'm going to share with you right now in this episode. A good way to buy land is simply saving your money for a 10% down payment. You put 10% down on the property. You can get the seller of the land to pay your closing cost. But there's also things you want to do. You don't want to buy a land sight unseen. You want to make sure it perks. You want to check the zoning. I did a lot of videos on that. I'll put the links below. You want to make sure that you can do what you want to do on the land, whether it just be to sit on it, to build a home, to put a mobile home, or any of that. Zoning is very important. Restrictions, deed restrictions, can you have farm animals? All of that stuff is so important, and you just have to check those. Once again, I have a video below for that. But how you acquire land, one of the simplest ways and cheapest ways is land foreclosures. You can go to findmyforeclosure.com. That's a paid site. I'm affiliated with that, and it's foreclosure.com. Find My Foreclosure is my direct link, and that will show you every piece of foreclosed land, house, property in your area if you want to see those. The second way to purchase land, and this is a very good way to purchase land, and it doesn't even require a bank, and it doesn't require any credit, and it's called a land contract. And it's basically when you find a piece of land and you purchase that land directly from the homeowner, the property owner, if you will, and they give you terms. In other words, they say, well, listen, if you'll pay me $600 a month or $500 a month for a period of 30 years, but you need to pay me off in 3 years. They call that a call, right? So you're buying the property, you put 10% down, there's no income check, job history check, credit check. You just give them 10%, you start paying on the property. Now, it's a legal way to do that. You want to make sure you do it legally so it is recorded. And that way you actually own the land, you're paying that person, and then in a predetermined time into the future, you know that, okay, I'm going to get bank financing in 2 to 3 to 4 years. It's easy to do that because you have to understand you actually own the land, right? And you also have equity in the land. You bought the land, you put 10% down on the land's gone up in value, you've paid down on the loan, the balance if you will, so it's easy for a bank to loan you money on that property. Now, a question you're probably thinking, and you should be asking, Wayne, can I build on that property? If I'm buying through this land contract, owner financing, and I haven't paid the land off, can I make improvements? Can I put a barn? Can I put a pond? Can I build a house? Can I put a mobile home? The answer is every single piece of parcel of land is different. It depends on the owner who's selling it to you. They may say, no, you can't do that, or they may say, we don't care what you do to the property. You just have to ask and always get it in writing. Remember this. Remember, Wayne Turner told you this. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. You got to get it in writing. But once it's in writing and you can make improvements, and listen, 90% of the time, a person selling you a piece of land says, sure, they're happy for you to make improvements to the property, because if you don't pay the land, they can foreclose and take it all, and you just made improvements to the property, improving the value. You see what I'm saying? So they don't mind you making improvements to the property. Now, here's what you have to remember. You can take and, for example, buy a piece of land, put 10% down, and you're paying this person. Then you can build a house. Once the home is built, you can go to the bank, for example. Now, it depends on if you're paying cash or getting a bank loan. You can then, after the home is completely built, you can roll it all into one lump sum financing. They call it a construction perm loan. So you may have a piece of land that someone owns, you bought owner financing, you build a house. After the house is built, you can go to your local hometown bank and you can say, I want to get a construction loan, or the home's already built, I want to get permanent financing. At that point, they will value the house and the land and tell you what it's worth, and they'll give you a loan on that, and then you can pay the land off and you have one monthly payment. That's how people buy land and build houses. They buy it on time, if you will, from an owner, and they build the property or get a construction loan, and then afterwards they pay it all off and start a traditional mortgage as though that house was pre-existing and they just walked up on it and bought it. Now, a big mistake that people make is they buy land that's bank owned. The bank owns the land, they buy it, and the bank says, we're selling it as is. So your perception is they're selling the land as is. They're not gonna do anything. They're not gonna make any improvements. They're not gonna give me a survey. I don't know if it perks. I don't know the zoning. I don't know the deed restrictions. I just have to buy it as is. That's not the case. 99% of the time, even though you're buying a property from a bank and they say, we're selling it as is, they are selling it as is after you close, but you still have that due diligence period, if you will, that time frame. Typically it's 10 to 15 days where you can do your homework, you can do your research, you can find out, will it perk? Can I put a septic? Is there sewer available? Can I drill for a well? What's the zoning? What can I put on the property? Are there any deed restrictions? All of that information, you want to be able to do your homework. And listen, if there's something there that you don't like, perhaps you want to buy a piece of land, it's a foreclosed piece of tract of land, it's $15,000 and you want to put a mobile home on it, but the deed restriction says you cannot, then you may not want to purchase that property. You may just want to move on down the road, but at least you know ahead of time and you can cancel the contract with the bank and get your deposit back and go purchase another piece of property. That's the big mistake people see. If it says as is, that just means that they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything to the property. They're selling it as is to you. But that does not mean that you cannot and you should do your due diligence to make sure that that land is going to fit into your lifestyle for what you want to do with it. So as I mentioned, my name is Wayne Turner. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. Give me a like if you like this video and want to hear more stories. I truly love sharing the stories with consumers so you can learn what I've learned over the years so you don't make the same mistakes as others. Until next time, God bless.